They started with nothing. Not almost nothing. Nothing. A kitchen table, a second-hand laptop, and an idea that everyone around them said would never work. That was 11 years ago. Neha and Vikram were 24 years old, newly married. In those first years, they did everything together. Neha wrote the business plan. Vikram built the website. Vikram managed the accounts. Neha handled the client calls. When there was no money for a second desk, they shared one. When there was no money for food that week, they did not tell anyone. When the first big client said no, Neha cried for 20 minutes. Then she picked up the phone and called the next one. This is important, because what comes later only makes sense if you understand what came before. They were not just business partners. They were not just husband and wife. They were the kind of team that only forms when two people go through something hard together and choose each other anyway, every single day. For years. By year 4, the company had its first real client. By year 6, they had a team of 8. By year 8, they were featured in an industry publication. The article had a photograph. Vikram alone in the office. His name in the headline. His vision described in the opening paragraph. Neha was mentioned once. In the third paragraph. As his wife. She read the article 3 times. She told herself it was just how these things were written. She told herself it did not matter who got the credit. What mattered was what they had built. She told herself a lot of things, because Neha was the kind of person who genuinely believed that if you did good work, the truth would eventually speak for itself. She was about to learn something painful about that belief. By year 9, investors started coming to them, and something shifted. In meetings, Vikram started speaking as if the ideas were his alone. In presentations, the story of the company began at year 4. The kitchen table disappeared from the narrative. The shared desk disappeared. The client calls Neha had made at midnight disappeared. The version of the company that Vikram was presenting to investors was a version in which he had built something, and she had supported him while he built it. Neha noticed. She raised it with him privately. Calmly, she said, I feel like I am being erased from our own story. He said she was being sensitive. He said investors respond better to a single founder narrative. He said a lot of things, and none of them were, you are right and I am sorry. Because here is what was actually happening. Vikram had looked at what they had built together and decided it was worth more with his name on it alone. That is not a mistake. That is not an oversight. That is a choice. And it is the most specific kind of betrayal because it does not happen all at once. It happens slowly, one presentation at a time, one interview at a time, one conversation with an investor at a time, until one day you look up and realize that the story of your own life is being told without you in it. The moment Neha knew with absolute certainty came on a Tuesday evening. She was at a dinner with potential investors. Vikram was speaking about the early days, and he said, and I remember sitting alone in that first office, thinking this could really work. Alone. She was sitting 3 seats away from him. She had been there. She had been there for all of it. And he said alone. She did not react at the table. She smiled. She answered questions when asked. She was professional and warm and completely present. And inside, something very quiet and very final clicked into place. That night, she did not sleep. She did not cry. She opened her laptop, and she started documenting every email she had written in those 11 years, every contract she had negotiated, every client she had brought in, every decision she had been part of. She had thousands of documents, because Neha had always been meticulous. And the thing about being the person who actually does the work is that you leave a trail, a very long, very detailed, very undeniable trail. It took her 6 weeks to organize everything, 6 weeks of working in silence, 6 weeks of smiling across the dinner table, 6 weeks of going to the office every day and doing her job as if nothing had changed. Because nothing had changed for her. She already knew who she was. She already knew what she had built. She did not need him to say it anymore. What she needed was the world to know it. She hired a lawyer, not to destroy the company, not out of anger, but because what was hers, and she had every single document to prove it. The conversation with Vikram lasted 3 hours. Her lawyer was present. His lawyer was present. And when Vikram's lawyer finished speaking, Neha's lawyer opened a folder and began reading. Email by email, contract by contract, decision by decision, year by year. The kitchen table, the shared desk, the midnight client calls, all of it documented. All of it time-stamped. All of it undeniably hers. Neha said very little. She did not need to. Vikram said very little after the first 20 minutes. What followed over the next 4 months was a legal and financial restructuring of the company. Neha received what she was owed, not what he was willing to give her, what she was legally, provably, undeniably owed. And then she left. Not because she had to, because she chose to. Because she had spent 11 years building something with someone who had decided her contribution was a detail, and she was not interested in spending another 11 years proving her worth to someone who had already decided not to see it. She started her own company 4 months later, took 2 clients with her. Clients she had personally brought in 11 years ago who had stayed loyal to her specifically, not to the brand. Within 18 months, her new company was profitable. Within 3 years, it was growing faster than the company she had helped build from a kitchen table. I want to tell you something about Neha that I think matters. She does not talk about Vikram with bitterness. She does not talk about him much at all. When she does, she says this: "He taught me something I could not have learned any other way. He taught me that the most dangerous thing you can do is build something incredible, and then wait for someone else to tell the world it was yours." She says, "I will never make that mistake again." And she has not. Her name is on everything now. Her story is told in her own words. Her company, her vision, her narrative. Nobody rewrites it. Nobody gets to. Close-up of organized filing cabinet, the meticulous paper trail that saved her. Used here as a visual reminder of what documentation means. Woman's silhouette at a whiteboard leading her own team. She is the one presenting now. Close-up of 2 hands in a confident handshake, a new client being signed. Her company, her deal, her name. Small but growing office space, quiet growth, building again but differently this time. Close-up of a woman's hand, signing her own name on a contract, bold and unhesitating. Woman's silhouette standing at the head of a meeting table, her team around her, she is leading. Abstract morning light across a clean, organized desk, peaceful and purposeful, everything in order. Close-up of a new business article, her name prominent in the headline this time. The story told correctly. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Have you ever done work so quietly and so completely that someone else was able to claim it as theirs? And if you could go back, what would you do differently? Leave your answer in the comments, because I genuinely want to know. And I promise you, you are not the only one who has been in that room. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe. Every week on Quiet Reckoning, one real story, one truth, one reckoning. The next story is already waiting for you on your screen. I will see you there.